Grenada, the stage is set. Brilliant minds, fresh perspectives. It's more than competition. It's confidence, creativity, and critical thinking in action. The Grenlec Debates, powering bright ideas.
The motion is, be it resolved that AI tutoring apps are more effective than traditional after-school tutoring for teenagers.
AI provides 24/7 availability. A survey stated that 80% of students feel AI-powered tutoring helps them prepare better for exams. Ladies and gentlemen, I myself am a student who uses AI to study at every period of the day. According to McKinsey, a study in 2023, personalized learning boosts performance by up to 30%. A student does not need to sit in front of a teacher to learn.
AI frequently gives misinformation. If you ask an AI tool like Microsoft Copilot a Grenadian history question based on the triangular trade route, it will give you something completely irrelevant to that. Why, you ask? Because AI is fed British or American history, not Caribbean. Now imagine that was a graded assignment. A student that does not know the difference will put that on a paper and get a big, fat 0.
Your second speaker says AI has no emotion, but does students not have families to comfort them after they go home?
Yes, but not all students grow up in a household where their families know how to cope and nurture them to certain circumstances.
But they can go to therapists, counselors.
And those things cost money.
But my worthy opponent,
So
students...
does after-school tutoring?
Not all my after-school tutoring doesn't cost money. Because of the love my teacher has for me and for my entire class.
But my worthy opponent, students have friends. They can get their emotional support from their friends.
Not all friends know how to cope with some certain things.
So
they mightn't get the right support or coping methods from their friends.
But my worthy opponent, not all teachers know about the student to help them.
But they are more experienced than friends.
Experience does not really mean that they know how to deal with that person.
My worthy opponent, isn't your teacher an experienced person?
My worthy opponent, this is my time to ask questions.
My worthy opponents came, they saw, they tried, but didn't conquer. As we have proven that there is only one right side for this debate, we strongly stand to say that traditional after-school tutoring is more effective than AI tutoring, especially for teenagers.
The motion is, be it resolved that schools should integrate the use of AI in the classroom.
Abigail Bailey is the head teacher at a prestigious boarding school in the UK. And not only is she a head teacher, or is it a head teacher, it is also the vice coordinator of its own sector, that being AI management. Now, I told you that they're there. There's an AI in a school. But I haven't told you that there's not only an AI. There are many. Every student has their own AI.
AI takes away from a child's critical thinking. AI tools make it more easier for students to plagiarize. My worthy opponents, if AI is integrated in schools, I guarantee you that students will not be able to critically think. For example, imagine you are given an assignment and you have to research COVID-19. Although we all experience COVID-19, that student would still go on AI to research COVID-19. And AI would provide them with generalized information, whereas they could have gotten personalized information from their peers, their parents, anyone, even themselves.
My worthy opponent, what if children cannot learn from AI and they learn from teachers, speaking, communicating? What will happen to them, children?
Then that's how they would learn. You see, the point is that AI would be used as a tool and not replace teachers. So the teachers would be there to help those students who can't learn with AI.
My worthy opponents, what evidence do you have to show that AI will truly help in a classroom?
According to a study done by UNESCO, 84% of students use AI worldwide. Above this, the AI market in education has grown to 7.57 billion, 46% up from 2024.
The motion is, be it resolved that relying on AI to complete homework weakens students' critical thinking.
AI may oversimplify learning or misinterpret students' needs. What I mean by this is, when students use AI, they copy what they see. So if or when AI gives misinformation, they are not able to understand what is wrong. This is reducing critical thinking because they copy everything without questioning.
The proposition argued that artificial intelligence reliance for homework reduces critical thinking skills in students. However, AI can enhance and expand creative possibility when used as a supportive tool for brainstorming, generating prompts, or offering suggestions. It expands creative possibilities rather than reducing critical thinking. The University of Exeter found that AI-assisted writing boosts creativity. This indicates that AI enhances creativity.
My worthy opponent, how do you know that the student can ethically use the AI?
Well, as long as proper programs and education is implemented on AI use, then I would believe that students would be properly educated on the use of AI.
So you are assuming?
No, my worthy opponent, I am stating that if policies are put in place to properly educate students on how to use AI before it is used, then I would assume that they would properly use it if they are educated on how to properly use it.
The motion is, be it resolved that unequal access to AI technology will widen the education gap between students.
My worthy opponents, are we to ignore the less fortunate, the students who simply cannot afford or access AI tools? The students who can will grow, but what about those who can't? AI is a teacher away from school. Our worthy opponents may argue that school provide the devices or platforms necessary. However, we argue that AI is a teacher away from school. Students who are fortunate enough to access devices and AI platforms at home can reap the benefits. However, what about those who can't?
When implemented thoughtfully, AI can level the playing field by providing high-quality educational content to students underserved. For example, the laptop and ebook initiative brought forward by the Honorable David Andrew states that 3,875 laptops have been secured for Form 1s and 2s, ensuring that no child is left behind due to the cost of textbooks.
Your second speaker stated about some students can't afford and access devices and that they can't access it at home. My worthy opponent, what do you have to say about the programs in place that give students access to these devices to go home with?
My worthy opponents, what we are trying to say is although these students do have access to these devices, they do not have the most advanced versions of these chatbots.
But this is why the government are instilling programs. Like my second speaker stated, the launch of the ebook and laptop programs, which was established, they are trying to make a more technological society by giving students access so everybody's at the same level.
My worthy opponents, you did state that 3,000 plus laptops were given out. However, those were not given out to all students.
Yes, my worthy opponent.
Secondly, A lot of students do not have internet access after they leave their schools. A lot of students do not have internet access at home, making it impossible to access these AI chatbots.
My worthy opponent, in the essence of time, we will move on to the next question.
The motion is, be it resolved that in the Grenlec Debates, students should be allowed to use AI tools on match days.
The use of AI in these debates can make it more entertaining. AI is an advanced tool that can make the debates more comprehensive and entertaining. When students are timed, they are prone to making mistakes and as a result, not doing very well. This is why the AI is there to guide them. And as a result, the students will be more confident because they are sure that the information they receive would be clear and make sense.
This format is not only about information and delivery, but teaching students how to be adaptable, how to grow, how to think quickly. The second point I bring to you today is the ethical concerns behind using these AI tools. How are we to address the disparity between the schools that have AI and the ones that don't? Or even the ones who have more or better sophisticated AI? Should we allow the debate to be distorted from a battle of skilled students to a battle of AI and resources? I think not.
Isn't the debate about developing speeches without the help of others?
Yes, my worthy opponent.
So would AI ruin the entire goal of the Grenlec Debates?
No, my worthy opponent.
Worthy opponent, your first speaker spoke heavily to AI and how it will make the debates more entertaining. Do you not agree that the most entertaining form of debate is one where the debaters develop their own arguments rather than reliance on technology?
But my worthy opponent, for us as debaters to debate, we first need points. We first need our sources to debate on. And sometimes we get moods that we are not properly prepared on. And with the implementation of these AI, we can make the debate more entertaining and we can debate better.
My worthy opponent, are we not given 2 weeks to prepare prior to the actual debate?
We are given a general topic as to what we are going to debate on. We are not specified as to exactly what we are going to debate on, my worthy opponent.
But isn't it our responsibility to critically analyze the motion and then use the information that we have gathered to debate on that said day?
My opponent, what if the information we have gathered is not relevant
My
to the
opponent, I'm sorry to cut you short, but we are not required to answer your questions at this time. May we proceed?
Yes, my worthy.
The motion is, be it resolved that the national education budget should prioritize providing students with access to AI tools.
Free AI access ensures that poorer students are not left behind. While wealthier peers secure premium tools, education has always been vulnerable to inequality. Students with tutors, extra lessons, or costly resources often enjoy an advantage. If AI is locked behind a paywall, we risk cementing a new digital divide. One where opportunity belongs not only to those who can afford it, but by guaranteeing free access, we balance the scales. AI becomes not a privilege of the few, but a right of many.
Why should the national education budget provide students with a tool that can weaken their thinking skills? If we grant students access to AI tools, this can create an over-reliance on technology. Esteemed judges, imagine a classroom where students rely on AI for every explanation, every math problem, and every essay. Instead of learning how to analyze and think critically, students are learning how to click and scroll. Education is about developing the human mind, not integrating students into the use of artificial intelligence.
Opponents,
If internet and libraries are recognized as basic educational resources, why shouldn't AI tools, the modern day library, be treated the same?
Because with the opponent, there are actual infrastructural libraries in schools. Students can simply go to an encyclopedia. Students could go to a dictionary without the unequal access that would be posed if they were used digitally.
But doesn't libraries help students?
Libraries in real life help students, my opponent. They are more efficient than those of artificial intelligence.
And they provide more credible sources, Melvin.
Moving on to our next question.
My worthy opponent, if 40% of secondary students already use AI for learning, why shouldn't we prioritize funding for the other 60% so that this percentage increases?
Simply because, my worthy opponents, artificial intelligence poses us with a series of disadvantages, which was outlined by my first and second speaker, for example, ethical and privacy concerns and erosion of mental health.
But my worthy opponent, there are privacy policies that ensure that these private information stays private, my worthy opponent, as like two-factor authentication. Next question.
The motion is, be it resolved that AI provides greater access to artistic expression than traditional classes in the creative arts.
In the Caribbean, access to AI-driven digital tools is increasing. The government of Grenada is already rolling out laptops and e-learning software to 6,000 students, laying the foundation for a generation of digital creators. Worthy opponents, if the government is providing us with the tools, who are we to say that they are not an aid in opening the door to more opportunities? Why should we continue pressuring our students to brainstorm ideas when we have access to tools that can eliminate this burden?
Humans feel. You and I feel everything. Love, hate, envy, and sadness. The list is almost infinite. But AI is nothing more than a machine. It can never understand the joy of new life, the sadness of heartbreak, the anger of a loss. But humans can. And those who are more talented translate these emotions into art pieces, music, drawings, and paintings that others can relate and refer to. Opponents, do you dare suggest that a machine is a better teacher than a human, someone that has seen these struggles and can use their art to share this?
AI does not replace creativity, however, it amplifies it. According to an investigation into factors that influence students' academic performance in the Caribbean in 2022, 71.2% of primary school students reported having access to an electronic tablet at home, which is a noticeable jump from 58.1% in 2017. This suggests that we are evolving and there is an increase in home tech access, which is an enabling factor for digital and AI learning.
Let it be known that according to the Stanford study, there has been a 13% decline in jobs within the artistic field because of the growing increase of human beings being replaced by these AI softwares. What are these individuals to do when their jobs are stolen from them? You can imagine a young person who went to school to major in a creative art. They graduate only to be left stranded, unemployed, because the job that they qualify for has been taken over by nothing more than a machine.
Isn't that a risk that AI-generated art lacks emotional depth of human-created works?
My worthy opponents, AI art is prompted by humans, so the creativity that humans possess will be translated into the arts.
Do you believe that creativity involves emotion?
Of course I do.
So, my worthy opponent, are you trying to say that AI can replicate our emotions?
No, but we're feeding the AI our emotions, and they are producing based on what we have said.
The motion is, be it resolved that exposing all secondary school students in Grenada to modern agricultural methods will strengthen national food security.
Picture this, a low-income family already struggling to keep the lights on. Father nowhere to be found and an alcoholic mother. But if taught in schools, the child or children would not really have to worry where the next meal would come from. Remember, agriculture is the key to success. This can drive the child to create their own garden, providing food with necessary nutrients for their family. That small garden can also grow, glow, and flourish into a bigger business, providing and aiding national security.
The mood speaks on all secondary students. Are we going to drag class by class by class, day after day after day, over to someone else's farm to expose them to these modern agricultural methods? That seems quite impractical. Now, what about the students that are not interested? Are we going to drag them over and just have them kick about all day, looking at things they don't care about? This will do absolutely nothing. They will look at these things that they see as a waste of time and not even leave it in their minds. How will this improve national food security?
Opponents, if not being taught or exposed, how will we know how to adapt to climate change?
Students will be taught they would choose to do agriculture if they want to, and then we would adapt to climate change. We should not force all students to do it, as my first speaker stated.
But don't you think that they should at least get the exposure to those agricultural methods?
If they don't want to, we must not force them.
My opponents, remember the mood said just exposing all students. It is not mandatory. As I stated, if they don't want to, they don't have to.
Exposing students to these modern agriculture methods can provide job opportunities, as stated by the first speaker of the proposition. However, judges, don't be fooled by such a misleading point. Quoted from my POI speakers, will each and every student get a job in agriculture? The obvious answer is no. Not only that, but according to my first and second speaker, the exposure of these modern agriculture methods would put extra strain on the child who is not interested. Opponents, your first speaker stated that not all students are interested and should not partake in these such activities and practices. This sounds reasonable. However, it fails to consider the fact that exposing students to these agricultural methods, they are exposed to new job opportunities. As stated by my first speaker, hands-on learning and practices ensure food security. This helps students who come from low-income families or poverty to provide for themselves. Secondly, your second speaker claimed that modern methods are too expensive. This may be true, however, it overlooks the fact that funding can be done through fundraisers, collaborations, and investments that come from governments.
The motion is, be it resolved that climate change is the biggest threat to food security in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique.
Climate change is a force beyond political policies. Now, the opposition may argue that dependence on imports poses a greater threat to food security. But when the weather turns wild, only the prepared can eat. While import dependence has its downside, climate change poses a far greater risk, more destructive and less controllable threat to Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique's food security.
The greatest threat to Grenada's food security is import dependency. The World Bank 2022 reported that Caribbean countries spend up to 20% of their foreign exchange earnings on imported food. In Grenada, my worthy opponents, the import bill for basic foods in 2023 surpassed 200 million Eastern Caribbean dollars, while the agriculture sector received less than 20 million. How can we achieve food security in such a condition, my worthy opponents?
Worthy opponents, my first speaker outlined that import dependency has cost Grenada 200 million EC dollars in agricultural losses, affecting our food security. How do you defend this?
Grenada's import dependence on food has nothing to do with climate change.
Okay, my worthy opponents, moving on. Worthy opponents, how can climate change be the biggest threat to food security in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique when wars have a greater impact on food imports?
Worthy opponent, what proof do you have to show that wars has
Worthy
a greater
opponents, a research done by the Pan-American Health Association, PAHO, stated that world wars across the world have affected our imports and therefore jeopardized our food security.
Opponents,
July 2024. Does that ring a bell? You know what happened. How can you say different? Judges, my opponent's school has been featured on a documentary emphasizing how bad hurricanes as a result of climate change had hit them. Isn't it so contradicting for them to say these claims? In the POI, they further argue that these factors such as food imports and water insecurity are bigger threats. They even stated that some of their so-called factors aren't even results of climate change. Judges, audience, opponents, your argument needs foundation.
The motion is, be it resolved that water rates should be increased in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique.
The increase of water rates will bolster other sectors. The fact of the matter is that this influx of money will allow other sectors to develop and grow, further strengthening the tri-island state on a whole. Healthcare, tourism, agriculture, all these sectors will become stronger, which will in turn improve all aspects of life for these citizens.
According to the World Meteorological Organization, 2024 was one of the hottest years in recorded history, with global surface temperatures reaching 1.55 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. This triggered widespread droughts and water stress across the islands. And in this era of climate change, the condition is only getting worse. So why should we increase water rates when it would put financial burden on the people of our region when they need water the most? Honorable judges, think about the low-income households. Increasing the cost of water, of one of the basic needs of life, would be to their detriment. Think about the farmers that feed us. They depend on water for food production. If prices of water goes up, the price of food goes up, which would further deepen food insecurity throughout the region. Why should governments increase water rates when it puts so much pressure on the economic sector?
Well, the opponent, as we've stated before and also in our second speech, the reason why the government should improve water rates is to invest in multiple other sectors of our economy that will see an increase in the benefits of our water security within the region.
But water is one of the basic needs of life. What other sector could be more important?
We are not saying that any other sectors are more important, but that they deserve attention too, such as healthcare.
While that is true, wouldn't lowering water rates be better for all individuals across the region because they get one of their basic needs of life at a lower cost?
Well, the opponent, while we do agree that a lower water rate would be ideal, we contest this by saying that the increase in water rates would allow persons to become more water conscious, making sure that they turn off the taps when they're not using it and that they use as little as possible to get the basic task done.
That accounts for people who waste water. But what about the majority of other people throughout the region who use water for their basic needs without wasting? That would be unfair to
the
them.
opponent, water waste is common among all the Grenadians, Caribbeans, and islands of Petite Martinique.
The motion is, be it resolved that in Grenada, community programs and education are more effective than government legislation in ending violence.
Education is the fundamental backbone of an individual, of a society, of a country like Grenada. The main institution to do this is schools, which children are enrolled in at the early age of 3. Well, the opponents, can they read laws and regulations at that time? No, but they are taught right from wrong. They are taught what not to do.
The most effective justice model is one where community programs and education work in tandem with the government legislation. Contention number 1. Prevention works only when combined with enforcement. The Caribbean Crime Prevention Initiative 2023 indicates that neighborhoods relying solely on mediation and mentorships still experience higher rates of violent incidents rather than those with police presence.
My worthy opponent, do you agree that government legislation plays a role in ending violence?
Worthy opponent, we do agree that government legislation...
Thank you, my worthy opponent. I have a question
Worthy
that you will
opponent,
be
may I
able
have a
to
chance to
expound
finish
later.
my answer?
My worthy opponent, I have a follow-up question where you can expound on your answer. Therefore, my worthy opponent, why is your stance opposed to both working together to end violence?
Worthy opponent, as I was saying, we do believe that government...
The motion is, be it resolved that in Grenada, community programs and education are more effective than government legislation in ending violence.
Why is it, if government legislation plays a role in ending violence and community programs along with education, why not integrate the three methods?
The motion is, be it resolved that Grenada's current legal framework cannot effectively reduce violence in society.
Grenada's current legal framework is very limited. For example, minors are effectively invincible, as there has been multiple cases in which assault, possession of drugs, and minors just get a slap on the wrist and get sent back to the school. Sure, they go in juvie for a little bit, and then sometimes they come back to the same place they committed the crime and continue doing as they please.
Current legal frameworks already attack crime before they take place. Dr. Niels Chaitan, psychologist who reduced crime in teen kids by 78%, already advocates for the current legal frameworks as a professional. He sees the value in our legal frameworks and attests to their success and how they are already working. Peter David, criminal defense attorney and member of parliament for the town of St. George, has stated that since the Juvenile Justice Act, instated in 2016, was implemented, there has not been an increase in crime, only an increase in publicity.
If the current legal frameworks are indeed effectively reducing crime rates in Grenada, wouldn't we see the differences every day? Take, for instance, war rape rate. In an interview we conducted with Mr. Simon, General Manager of the Grand Baccalaureate Rehabilitation Center, and I quote, Grenada has the highest rape rate in the Caribbean as of 2024. Judges, worthy opponents, by suggesting that the current legal frameworks are effectively reducing violence rates and they do not need any changes, we are blatantly allowing the offenders to live freely in the lives of the victims.
Judges, let me be clear. We never said our current legal frameworks don't need changes, but Mr. Peter David said that there has not been any increase in gun violence after the gun law was passed. The word of a criminal attorney, parliament representative, or a prison officer. I'll leave that answer to you. Additionally, she stated that there was an increase in gun possession. But judges, gun possession is not an increase in violence.
There has not been an increase in violence, as stated by the first speaker of the opposition. However, judges, according to my POI speakers and quoted from the prison officer, Mr. Christian, there has been a 20% increase of violence since 2017. 20% were the opponents. That proves your claim false, just as your entire stance with the motion. If these current laws are so effective, how is it that the violence rates increase instead of decrease?
Grenada, the stage is set. Brilliant minds, fresh perspectives. It's more than competition. It's confidence, creativity, and critical thinking in action. The Grenlec Debates, powering bright ideas.